All right. So we're just welcoming people, waiting for everyone to connect.
Yeah, I think we have a couple more people that are connecting.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
thanks for joining us. We're just waiting just a little bit longer to make sure people can connect in here.
Thank you.
Oh, yep, got more people coming in. Sorry, guys, we got some more people I'm admitting.
We'll get started here in just a minute.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, Scott. How are you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. The guys are here. They're just like they're ready to go. They got a 1,000 questions. I could not type them down. They're ready to go.
Oh,
All
my
right, I'm sure
goodness,
they are.
1,000 questions.
Yep.
We're very excited for the questions.
Okay, well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started because we have a full agenda for this workshop. So my name is Holly Lee, and I'm with the University of Virginia Pipelines and Pathways program, which is an initiative of President Ryan to help individuals residing in the Charlottesville community gain access to employment at the University of Virginia that has the opportunity for upward mobility. And we work with both the medical center as well as the academic division. I know some of you all are working with us. For those of you who aren't, definitely feel free to reach out to us anytime if you're interested in employment at the university, or if you're currently employed at UVA and you are thinking about wanting to either change career paths, move up in your current position. We're more than happy to talk to you about potential pathways at UVA. So quickly, just want to have our Pipelines and Pathways team introduce themselves. And then after that, then we will get started. So let's have Adriana go first, please.
Yes, thanks, Holly. Hi, everyone. I'm Adriana Vest-Turner. I serve on the Pipelines and Pathways team as an opportunity navigator. So I'm really just responsible for serving as that key piece in between our community members looking for employment at UVA and then the hiring departments. Super happy to have everyone here with us today. I will pass it to Claudio.
Thanks, Adri. My name is Claudio Otero, and I'm also an opportunity navigator with Pipelines and Pathways. Adri really just hit it on the nail with what we do. So I'm now going to pass it off to Melissa.
Before Melissa goes, though, I do want to say there's a question in the chat box from Stacy. Stacy, we do have a PowerPoint presentation currently showing. So if you're not able to see that, can you give us some kind of signal here? I just want to make sure you can see that. So with that, Melissa, can you just go ahead and introduce yourself? Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Melissa. I'm also with Pipelines and Pathways. I'm here co-presenting with Anastasia Mizitova, who is our guest speaker for today on our wonderful presentation, Your Career, Your Way. We are going to talk about how to navigate a career path, how to get into a new career, how to step into your career, and then go into pathways from there, and the 5 critical action steps in order to make that, how to make your career a reality. So I want to introduce Anastasia today. Thanks for joining us, Anastasia, and thank you for working with us on our presentation today.
Thank you so much, and welcome everyone. I'm so honored to be here with you all. And I have to say, I'm so proud of UVA Pipelines and Pathways team. Before we started broadcasting, we've had this amazing conversation with Melissa, and we have been discussing how this is truly unique, not just for Charlottesville, it's unique nationally, and it may be even unique globally. So what this amazing team is trying to do is really outstanding. And we have scheduled about 2 hours. Let's see how we'll do. It could be a little shorter, but we will certainly keep within 2 hours. And I just want to say that we welcome your questions. And I've heard that someone has 1,000 questions. So we will try to leave some time to answer those questions. So I will be asking you to, and we will be setting aside some time to address your questions. So yes, let's have a conversation. Now, again, I'm so proud of this. And this chat today is very, very unique, because what we have been trying to do is we have been trying to really think about what it is that you want from us to hear, what it is that you want us to tell you, in which ways we can contribute value today. So we have spent quite some time trying to really think about success stories that Pipelines and Pathways already have, so that it's not theory. We will be really presenting you the case of a number of people who already have been successful. We will be trying to explain to you exactly what they have done and what you can do going forward to be successful in your career. Now, you have your chat box, and I suggest that you start thinking about your questions. And as I speak, you can already type in your questions in the chat box. We will be monitoring your questions, and then we will certainly find the time to address those questions and answer them. So please, please, please ask as many questions as you can. I've had an interesting career. I've been around for many years. And when I think about just how many years I have, that would be more than 25. And my career had all kinds of different twists and turns. I have had a corporate career, and it has been global. I have worked in 4 different countries. In addition to the US, I worked in the UK. I worked in Jersey Channel Islands, which is a tiny island between the US and France. I worked in Russia, so many, many different places. I have my own business. I have global career. And when I think about career, I actually don't think in terms of just salary or position. I think that everything I've been doing in terms of volunteering, publishing, music, anything that fulfills me, anything that shows who I am, is actually a part of my career. So when I think about career, this is way more than just regular upwards corporate ladder, and we will be talking about that. And another way I look at my career is the skills I have. So what is it that makes me valuable? I'm a business trainer, I'm a coach, I'm a project manager. So in a way, career is a portfolio of all my capabilities and skills. So this is just a preview, because we will be talking about this in a very structured way. And by the way, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please feel free. I just love having new friends on LinkedIn. Now, this big career conversation about me, it's a little bit of bragging. I know it sounds this way, but what I'm trying to say is that I have experience. I really do. And we have been doing projects for big companies, small companies all over the place in the US, globally. And we put together a very nice way of talking to people about careers, and it really works. So what we have done, Melissa and I, today, is we used this methodology to help you guys, wherever you are, whatever the level of skills you have, to actually show you how you can step by step move forward to your career, next career step. This is easy, this is really useful, and let me just take you by the hand and walk you through those nice 5 steps. And when I say 5 steps, we have been doing this a lot. And what I do know is that everybody wants to talk business, like, let's talk salaries. Let's talk about position. Yeah, that this is coming. But before we do that, there are a couple of very important conversations. And conversation number 1 is about ownership. Because career is a big commitment, and it's not just a one-off thing so that you can do it today and you can immediately have your nice result. This is a long-term investment. This is a long-term commitment. And before we jump into discussing what it could look like, we need to have a conversation about just how ready are you to invest in your career, and just how much responsibility are you taking? So this is important, and we'll have this conversation in a minute. The next conversation is vision. And what happens is, again, I worked with big bosses, I worked with startup people, I worked with people kind of midway in their career. Sometimes people just do not see options. Sometimes they feel like they're stuck, like they do not even know what's available. And it's a great conversation just to really think, what are the options available? The next very important conversation is, what are your assets? What's your portfolio? What are the skills that you have? What are the capabilities that you have? And sometimes, again, what I'm experiencing is that people do not even know what they already have. Just to give you a very brief example, I worked with an amazing person who has been in the military for many years, and this person was transitioning to corporate world, and we sat down for a conversation, and he said, "I have nothing." And I'm like, "What do you mean you have nothing? You have so many years of experience. You've been in the military." And he says, "Well, it's different." So what we did was we sat down, we talked about his projects, about the people he managed, about his achievements. And you know what? He had an amazing portfolio. So our job today is to inspire you, to empower you, to uplift you, to show that you have got it, you have it. And we're here to help you to formulate your portfolio, to really understand that you already have valuable skills and assets to move forward. And then another conversation, which is number 4 here, is connections. You could be an amazing professional with multiple skills, but unless you know people, unless you talk to people, unless you make yourself visible, well, it will be very hard to discover you. So it's a skill and it's a project, and you've got to do this, and you've got to put this on your list. And then it's all about actions. So my conversation number 5 is, what is your action plan? Are you acting on this? Are you actually doing anything about this? So Melissa, thank you so much. I'm very excited. And this is going to be not just a one-person speech. This is going to be a conversation. Let's get started. And we will start with conversation number 1, which is ownership. So let me ask you a question, and I would encourage you to type in your chat box, type something like plus or 1 or yes if you think that you are driving your career forward. And I realize and I acknowledge that career could mean different things to different people, but the question is, do you think you are managing it? Do you think you're moving anywhere? Yes and no. And thank you to all of you for being open. And yes, it could be a hard conversation. And some people feel like they are doing it. Some people feel like it's just not happening. But I want to acknowledge all of you. If you're here right now, if you're listening to this conversation, it means that you're interested. And that is a wonderful starting point. And thank you to those of you who are saying no, but trying to. That's literally all we're looking for here. Wonderful. So when I talk to people, some of them say yes, some of them say no to this question. But then what I usually do is I ask more questions, because yes or no is very limiting. We actually want more information. And what I would ask you is, when you think about your past year, so let's be specific, 12 months, think September 22, right? That would be last year. What steps have you taken over the past year to drive your career? And let me just kind of ask you questions and you think about this for a minute. You may have reached out to a career specialist and had a conversation. Have you taken a class? Have you attended a webinar? Have you learned or practiced a skill? Have you built your resume? Have you responded to a vacancy? So again, for some people, it's going to be like, yes, 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 high achievers, like, I'm doing great. For other people, sometimes it's a little bit daunting. It's a little bit difficult, because it kind of just shows you just how much you could have done during the last year. So I'm asking you to stay positive. My mission here is just to remind you just how much you can do and how much is available. And going forward 1 year on, thinking about September 24, I really want you to be proud of yourself. I want you to look back 1 year and say, you know what, I have done all of those things. So tomorrow starts today. Okay. I can empower you, I can uplift you, but I cannot make a commitment for you. What you need to do is you really need to think about your commitment. Are you ready to say yes to this? And this is going to take time. This is not going to be easy. It will have your ups and downs. Sometimes it will be a little easier. Sometimes it will be a little more difficult. But if you want to be next year in a place where you have done a lot, well, we need to start today. And when I say this, I realize that career is just one piece of the puzzle. I am in a place right now where my kids have grown up. I'm an empty nester. They moved on. So I can just manage my career full time. But I remember when I was a mom, like a young mom, and my day was filled with house chores. And sometimes we have to take care of our parents. Well, there's so much going on in your life. You could be in a very hard place in your life right now. There could be a lot of challenge involved. So be true to yourself, be realistic, and think about what is it that you need to include in your priorities list. So when I talk about myself right here, right now, I can dedicate almost 80% of my time to career management. What's your true ratio? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? Whatever it is, it's a good start. And what I'm saying is that you are about to make some tough choices, because if you're managing your career, that could mean that you're not doing something else. So try to create a realistic plan that works for you. Try to think about your total life. But then what you need to do is you need to get moving. All right. So that's a very important point. I can see some messages in the chat box, and I will definitely find time to address it. But before we do, let me introduce you to Tyron. And just like I said, well, the photograph is not real. It's just a random person. But the Tyron persona is a very real person. So what we have done with Melissa, we thought about a success story. And we decided to tell you the story step by step. So Melissa, why don't you introduce Tyron? And can you tell us how Tyron claimed his ownership?
So Tyrone is a individual who was in a career as a restaurant server. So he started out, he graduated high school, he had his high school diploma, but he did not go to college. And he was working as a server in his restaurant for many, many years. He ended up working for so long and actually got into a trainer position and then promoted again into a manager position. So this is someone who was clearly good at speaking with others, good at training people, had a lot of patience, was good at multitasking, but was stuck inside this specific restaurant field, and he felt like he could not get out of it. He was looking to go into a new career, but he's been doing this restaurant work for so long. How does Tyrone get out of the restaurant field? How does he go into something where he can actually step into a higher level, higher paying, a career that has, or a field that has a ladder where he can supervise other people that's not in a restaurant? What else can he do with his own resume, with his own skills in order to break out of the restaurant industry specifically? Tyrone also was motivated and decided to maybe switch careers because a new child came into his life. So he needed to make a change in his life so he could provide for his family and his new baby. So he needed to reevaluate a couple of things about his life. He knows he has management abilities. He knows he has leadership abilities, but how does he get out of the restaurant industry? So he made a goal for himself. He said, I need to connect with career services. I need to look at my resume. I need to find out and ask myself, what is it that I can do? What do I already have? And then what can I do next in order to break out of the restaurant industry? So he put his foot forward, and we're going to talk about the actionable steps that he did take throughout this webinar today. But he knew he had a challenge, he knew he needed to change it, and he knew that it was up to him to actually make the steps happen.
And I just want to build on this before we move forward. And yes, we will be referring back to this story. But when Melissa and I talked about this person, I just felt so much respect, because I think you can easily relate to this situation, someone being overworked in a restaurant, somebody having a new kid, in family. It's so easy to say, oh no, this is just too much. And, I'm being overwhelmed. And just, say that probably, I just, there's nothing for me. This person had the power, the energy, the authenticity, that's what I want to say, I'm going to make a difference. And I just want you to really think about this. There's always challenge involved, and there's always this urge to be negative a little bit, right? To feel victim a little bit. But then some of us just can stand up and say, you know what, there's a better future for me. So this is a real person, and he is a very good success story. So let's look exactly at what he has been doing. And thank you for this example. That's really great. So before we move to the next step, can I ask one of our amazing team, if you have been looking through the chat, are there any questions that we could address right now about ownership, about taking control of your career, anything that we need to address before we move on?
So it looks like Vicky has said she is saying yes to building her skills and improving and taking on new challenges, and to not be afraid that it may take a while. So that is very important, Vicky, because even though it might be scary, it is important to maybe change your direction a little bit and to improve upon yourself with your existing skills, or to start a completely new skill.
Wonderful. So at this point, what people usually have, and that's a wonderful thing, is commitment. Like, yeah, I'm going to do this. But then reality check, it's overwhelming because there are so many possible choices, but you do not necessarily navigate those choices very well. And by the way, when people from pathways and pipelines were introducing themselves, I've heard opportunity navigator a couple of times. Isn't that amazing? So you have people in this project who are here for you to navigate opportunities for you. And this is exactly what we're going to talk about in this second stage. So let me ask you a couple of questions, and I know you are in different places in your life, but still it's very important to think about it. So wherever you are, whatever it is that you do, you probably have an immediate role. There's something that you're doing right now. And I'm just wondering if you have a clear understanding of your focus. What is it that you want to do in your immediate role? So if you're here, you're probably thinking about moving on. But still, it's really, really important to know, to be clear about what is it that you're doing and what is it that you're achieving in your current role. And then as you're thinking about your next, it could be next assignment, it could be next role, it could be a complete change of your career. But do you have any idea about what it is that you want? So it could look very different, but what is it that you want? And then thinking in a longer term perspective, like 3 to 5 years, do you have any clarity around what it is that you want? And again, your aspirations and your needs could span way beyond just regular salary or position. Maybe you want expertise. Maybe you want various life experiences. Maybe you want challenge. Maybe you want to become an expert in certain fields. So what is it that you want? And I know this sounds like a big word, but what's your purpose? And when you think about purpose, I read an amazing article just the other day. It was written by a person who is 85 years old. And this person is reflecting on his life, and it's a well-known actor, by the way, but he's just reflecting on whether or not he made the best use of his life. And he's saying that if I was more purposeful, more intentional, more positive, you know what, I could have made more out of my life. And you know, this sense of purpose, it's good that he's thinking about this being 85 years old. But I think if we start thinking about this today, that will be a really guiding force for us going forward. So what is it that you really want to achieve? Again, wherever you are in your life, whatever hardship you're experiencing right now, you still have the time, you have the energy, you have capabilities to make something really wonderful out of your life. And this kind of thinking starts today. So we've got to envision this. So call it career, or call it your life, or call it your success. It doesn't really matter whatever the word you will choose to use in your reflection. You've got to think forward, not just think back, not just, you know, wander around in whatever it is that you're doing. Think forward. So I will help you to do this, because there are multiple tools available, and we will talk about 4 different tools that could help you envision your career. Number 1 is explore career paths. And I will show you a few paths that you could be thinking about. Number 2 is understand the market, because this is where dream meets reality, right? So there's something that you maybe want, you want to do, but there's something that's really needed out there. There are people who have jobs, they need skills, they need capabilities. You could be one of those people. Number 3, understand what it means for others whom I serve. Well, sometimes just people, when they think about careers, again, they just think in terms of the position that they may be holding and this paycheck that they could be receiving. But what does it mean for people who hired you? What does service look like? What value you will be contributing? And number 4, what are the skills? What are the skills that they're looking for? So if you're thinking about growing, advancing, moving on, then it's really, really good to think about the skills that you could be bringing into the table. So let's look at number 1, which is explore career paths. And let's get back to our story. Melissa, what happened?
All right, so as we left off before, Tyrone knew that he had been in this customer service type, serving type restaurant field, and he needed to figure out, how does he break out of this, you know, role? How can he get into a different type of career? Well, he has a passion. So he asked himself, what am I good at? What do I like to do? He has a passion for taking care of other people. He actually had a very brief role right out of high school before he became into the restaurant industry as a personal care aide. So he worked very temporarily and, you know, shortly into this personal, you know, care aide role. And he actually remembered that he loved it so much that he wants to maybe return to that role. And he wants to maybe go into the healthcare field. And then he said, yes, I do. I want to go back into the healthcare field. I don't want to be a restaurant server anymore, or a manager of a restaurant anymore. I want to go back to taking care of others and serving others in the healthcare field. He spoke with his father, who is a role model for him, and asked his advice. Dad, how do I do this? How can I transition into a new career into the healthcare field with only the experience I have with you know, restaurant, you know, work, and then the very brief stunt that I had as a personal care aide? And his father gave some recommendations and some connections to him, which we'll talk more about, you know, later. And so he understood, okay, so what kind of skills do I have currently that can be transitioning into a healthcare role and healthcare career? Well, I need to, I have leadership experience. I enjoy taking care of others and taking care of patients. I need to, and the role needs to make enough income, you know, so I can support my family. And I used to working in safe conditions, so restaurant serve safe credential that he has can be translated into a healthcare field as well by being sanitary and careful with the tools. And he was also attracted to healthcare because it has a consistent schedule. Restaurant, schedules are, nights, weekends, and all over the place. He needed stability for his family and work-life balance. And he looked at the market. What is the number one employer in Charlottesville? Well, that's going to be UVA. It also is healthcare field positions, and especially entry-level positions are one of the most demanded positions in Charlottesville because they need healthcare professionals. And so that is where he began envisioning his career.
Thank you. What I want you to see here is the ingenuity of this particular situation. It's really easy to say, oh, I've been in restaurant service for 15 years or 10 years. I'm a server. I'm a waiter. That's it. That's who I am. That's very limiting, because anything that I could be thinking about going forward would be within that field. So I am this. Well, let me tell you something. That's not who you are. You are a human being. You are bright. You are strong. You are curious. You have all of those human qualities about you, and you could take advantage of any opportunity out there if you just really want this. So really think about this example. What's different about this is that Tyrone opened up to different opportunities. And also this father figure is very important, because he was brave enough to talk to people about his dream. And he actually he opened up to other ideas. And amazingly, and that's the case frequently, there are people in your immediate circle who might have ideas for you, who might support you, who might suggest something. So start talking and be brave, and do not say, I am this. Really explore all kinds of different ideas that might be relevant to your situation. All right, so moving on. This is an interesting slide that lists a number of different paths available. So wherever you are, if you work in a company already, one obvious career path would be to move up. And if we continue this conversation about this person, if he was a server within a restaurant, he might be thinking about becoming a manager or even a senior manager. But then depending on the restaurant, that might not even be available. If it's a small company, if it's a small restaurant, they may not even have this position. So, but then in some companies, you could do this. So it's upward, which means that more salary, higher position. Sometimes you could be thinking about moving across. So if, again, staying within this example with a restaurant, the person could be moving to finance, administration, customer service, inventory management, which means that this person could be gaining more skills, expanding his expertise. So that's what move across means. And it does not necessarily mean that you will become a finance manager or administration. It could just mean that you're gaining more skills, you're getting involved, you are getting involved in those projects. So yes, you're becoming more knowledgeable and skilled. There's another opportunity, another path, which is stay where you are and become a super expert. So for some of us, we could become absolute best in your role. And by the way, speaking about restaurant, the day before yesterday, I went to a wonderful restaurant here in Charlottesville, and the server, the waiter, he was an amazing person. And he said, you know what, I've been in restaurant business for 30 years, 40 years. He was amazing. He was really one of the best waiters I've ever seen. He could connect to people. He knew what he was doing. He was just a pleasure to be around. So that's an option. That's a possibility. And then you could consider completely different paths. You could learn new skills, start at entry level, manage change. Now, I'm very, very intentional about this last one. This is probably one of the hardest paths on this slide. So if you really want to change your life, if you want to change your path, then there's a lot of work to be done. probably whatever it is that is needed in the new job, you don't have it at this point, but you can learn. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be lots of emotions involved. It's going to be up and downs. And this is what managing change is all about. So remember, we started our conversation with responsibility, with ownership. So if you are saying yes to this path, congratulations to you. You're brave and you certainly can do it. But just remember that this is a non-linear path and it's going to be hard. But, you know, there's a great payoff at the end. So multiple paths available. And what I would encourage you to do is talk to people. Find someone you trust. Find someone who has more experience than you do. And just sit down and discuss different paths available. What's available for you? And think beyond your current situation, your current role. Really, really dream big. Next tool to envision your career is understand the market. So before we move on, and I can see some new messages in the chat, Melissa, is there anything that we need to address right now?
We have one question from one of the correctional facilities asking, how can one find out their worth? Meaning, how can they find out what they are good at? And I think that from what we've been talking about, asking others what they think that you're good at and what their opinion is would be good. And then asking yourself what skills that you possess already, what have you done in the past?
Right. Well, first, thank you so much. And we're so lucky to have you today with us on this conversation. Let me break it down into two different questions. How can I find my own worth? That's a big personal question. And let me just tell you, you are worthy. Full stop. Full stop. Now, another question is, what skills do I have? And we will be having this conversation in a minute. So stay tuned, because there's a third step in this model, which is called portfolio. So we are about to dive deep into this. But yes, it starts with permission to be happy, permission to be worthy, and you don't need anyone's permission for that. It's a personal, brave choice to say, you know, wherever I am, whatever happened to me before, I will start climbing from here. So thank you for this wonderful question. Now, let's return to those 4 different ways to envision your career. Number 1, be brave, explore all the paths that could be available. Number 2, understand what the market is needing right now. So Melissa, let's go back to our story.
Okay, so Tyrone, we had mentioned that he spoke to his role model, his dad, and he was wondering, you know, what opportunities were out there. And so he spoke to his dad. He said, I'm having this issue. I'm in the restaurant industry. I have this new baby and I need to break out of it. And he already knew his dad already had a lot of connections in the area of where they live in Charlottesville. And so he asked, is there anyone you know? Is there anything that you can point me to, the right direction that I can be pointed to as far as, you know, how I can start this new career? And I don't even know if this is the right direction for me. This is something I want to do, but what do you think? And his dad said, yes, there are some connections I can send you to. There's Pipelines and Pathways. He did recommend to his son to visit Pipelines and Pathways at one of our career events and get connected to a career coach with Pipelines and Pathways, or Opportunity Navigator. And now it's time to go on the website of not only Pipelines and Pathways job board, but the job board for UVA Health, because he's already identified UVA Health is the place that has the #1 employer in the area, and the health center specifically is what he wants to go into. So what do they have available? Well, he looked at the website, looked at a couple of jobs that were interesting to him. He wrote them down. He looked at the criteria for each of the jobs. And he looked at what kind of candidate they're looking for. Do they have to have certain experience already, or is customer service something they're looking for? Because customer service is a skill that can be transferable. And he was looking at himself and what else can I do? So he made a list. He answered the questions of what they're looking for and then what is available for him to apply to. And then he was able to take the next steps and actually follow through on meeting with a representative.
Wonderful. So building up on what you said, Melissa, and this is really great. I just want to break down this big word market into something kind of really much simpler. So as you walk through, or as you drive through, or as you look out of the window, if you're in Charlottesville, just look around you. And you will see lots of people walking up and down the street. You will see lots of cars driving. You will see lots of buildings. And just think about it. All the people there are engaged in one kind of business or another. They have lots of projects going on. They certainly need good skills. They need good people. So they probably, if they are ready to hire someone, there's information out there somewhere, and they probably worked very hard to formulate what it is that they need. So you need to find a way to research that, understand what's needed, get connected, and introduce yourself. So as simple as that. And yes, the truth is some of them will connect with you, some of them will not, but unless you start moving, you will never find out whether or not you are right for them. So the beauty about this story is that Tyrone was a brave person who spoke up, who started to make connections with people, who asked specific questions. Who is looking for people? What vacancies are available? What is it that they're looking for? So now we are talking. And this kind of conversation will certainly lead you to at least some of the vacancies that are right for you. Now, third way to envision your career is to understand what it means for others whom you serve. So career, when you think about getting hired, it means that someone is ready to pay you for a good job. And what does good job even look like? And that's a wonderful question. Not many people ask this question. So Melissa, I know that Tyrone was very intentional and very inquisitive about this. Can you tell us what happened?
So he had not been into the medical center as a professional yet, but he has been there as a patient. So he's been into the hospital before. Many of us probably have been inside UVA's hospital. And he needed to be intentional about what is it like to serve people as a patient from their perspective, but also what is it like to work and serve with my medical coworkers if I get this job, and thinking about it from their perspective and making sure that whatever he is able to bring to the table, he is serving the patients, and he is serving his medical staff, even his supervisor. So what is it like to be in this environment, and really envisioning what is it like to be into this role to serve both sides, the professionals and the patients. And they're people. You know, they're people.
I was just about to say, I've never worked in a medical facility, but my mom is a doctor. She was a doctor before she retired, and it's people. So just walk in there if you can. Look around you, look at those people. Your career means that you will be providing service to those human beings. You will be helping them do something important, something fun, something nice. And the question is, what does it look like? What does your good job look like in terms of your team, in terms of your clients, in terms of your managers? So they will be getting value from you. And this, I wish every person thought about that in their role. And then I think the job market and the career experience will be much more valuable for everyone. Now, another one before we move on to portfolio is understand the skills. So again, people want to advance, people want to become better, people want to earn more money, and that's absolutely wonderful, that's viable. The question is, what is it that you're offering, and what is it that they need? So I'm just wondering what happened to Tyrone, and Was he even able to research this before he started his job?
So he had already a resume that he had made that he wanted to improve upon. He knew that what he had currently was probably not going to, work for a medical center, role. His restaurant, server job was very just restaurant skills only, and it didn't really have a lot about it that could be translated in a way to work for a job at the UVA Medical Center. So he did connect with Pipelines and Pathways representative to ask for assistance on this, because he was like, I don't know what I have. How do I even begin? What skills do I have that can be related to UVA Medical Center role? And looking at the job board and identifying several of the jobs that he was interested in, one being a sterile processing technician, he says, okay, what do I currently have and that can be used into the sterile processing technician role? And that's a really hard question. What does a server have? What does an assistant manager have? And we looked at his skills, and I'm going to tell you that there's a big one, and that's going to be customer service. Because although when someone comes into a restaurant, we call them customers, a patient comes in the hospital, it's still like a customer. You're going to be treating them in the same professional and courteous manner that you would a customer in a restaurant. It would also really be important to be the fact that he was a manager. So you have leadership skills, and that is very important in a hospital environment, to be able to not only give direction, but take direction. And then multitasking was something else that is very, very important. A hospital setting is a very busy environment. A restaurant setting is a very busy environment. Those are the same core skill that can be used in both jobs. And I think there's even more that we can talk about, but we do have a resume we'll show you guys very shortly. But that's essentially what he needed to do.
Can I just build up on what you just said, because this is really important? And linking it to the question that someone asked us before, like, how do I explore my worth? And see how Tyrone at this point just explored without question, oh, do I fit in? Do I have what it takes? He was just exploring. Let's see what those guys have. Let's see what their need is. And then what, Melissa, what you were just saying right now is, he explored the medical jobs, and he was going like, oh, I can do this. I can do this, even though it has medical in the job description, and I've never done medical before. But you know what? I can serve customers. I can be very diligent. I can do job well. So please do not be limited by whatever role or whatever circumstances you happen to be in right now, because that's the whole reason why envisioning comes, and I'll come to this in a minute. That's the whole reason why envisioning comes before portfolio. Think big, think across multiple functions, think across multiple industries. You could be anything, right? You don't have to be limited by the job or by the situation in which you happen to be right now. So when you explore, and it's very, very important to put your skills together, and we will show you how to do this, but think beyond your current situation. That's probably the key message here. And again, just, building on what Melissa said, you may find that whatever it is that people are looking for in another industry, in another role, may suit you. So that is the key message here. Now, this is very fancy. This is research from a big international consulting company, but I think it's just amazing. So what they have done was they visualized career path of someone who might have moved from office clerk to a shift manager position and then store manager. And what this visual shows you is that in the beginning, someone who was an office clerk needed some skills to get this job done. So probably they would be filling in certain forms. They would probably be using computer programs to do something. They will probably be communicating with their colleagues. All of those things are represented by dark blue or even black circles. So what will happen if this person moves on? And in this case, the person was not drastically changing their career. They just had upwards career. So they became shift manager. Now, what happened was that it was not just an easy ride. And when this person found themselves in a shift manager position, they realized the skill distance was 42%. Let me put it in human words here. They did not know half of the things they were supposed to know. How about that? That's ouch. That does not feel great. Because in this new role, you will be expected to manage people, manage their schedules, give them feedback, evaluate their work, and all of those blue circles, that's a new skill. And it's not acquired easily. And if you want to succeed in this next position, that only means that you should have started building up this skill set way before you were appointed a shift manager, which means that we need to become curious. We need to really look for opportunities to grow. And interestingly, some of the skills are not needed anymore. So as you move to another position, especially when you dramatically change your role or change industry in which you work for, you could realize that some of the skills that you worked so hard for are not needed at this point. They might be needed somewhere in your next role. And then as you become comfortable in this manager position, you could be thinking, oh, I'm so glad I will never have to do this before. Well, I have news for you. Your next move will be even harder. And I'm sorry to say that. I'm not here to disappoint anyone. I just want you to really think realistically about that. So the person who moves from middle level position of a shift manager into a store manager position will experience new skill distance, which is going to be even greater, 54%. Because in this new role, those light blue circles represent new skills. And that would be, imagine that you are in charge of your sales in your department. You are in charge of managing your clients. You are in charge of managing finance. All of this is your responsibility now. And all of those people, of course, in your company. So what I'm here to tell you is that everyone is experiencing this hardship. It's difficult to move upwards. It's a challenge. It's difficult to move across. There are always skills involved. And if everyone thinks in terms of what is it like to be in this next position, what are the skills that they will need? What is it that they want from me and how success looks like, we will be in a better place in terms of managing our careers. So, Melissa, can I ask you any questions so far that we could address?
Stacy, did you need to ask us a question? You went off mute for just a second, or are you good?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm still just trying to get my computer to show the picture, but I have two devices hooked up, so I see on one device and hear on another device. I'm just making
Stacy, thank you so much for working hard. Thank you. We appreciate that. Any other questions, Melissa?
I think we're good for right now. And
We're
yes,
good.
in the chat, people are asking about recordings. Yes, we will send out recordings to and anybody who came in late, or if they want a copy of the recording, we will send it.
Okay, so we have covered two very important conversations. Number one is ownership. And the outcome from this conversation is, I am committed. I'm doing this. Number two is vision. And this is where you're exploring different opportunities and you are shifting your boundaries and you're thinking, I'm going to try this. So then, yes, you were completely right. There will be a question. What is it that you can do? What are your skills? What are your capabilities? And let's see how we can approach this. Now, when you think about this, yes, you are a package of capabilities and skills. strengths and you need to articulate them. You need to put them together in a nice way so that other people understand it. But also what you need to do is you need to think forward, because you're not your current skill set. You are potential. You are potential. You've got potential, which means that if you pay attention, if you are committed to this, 6 months down the line, you could be capable of doing more. So really, you need to start thinking about your future portfolio as well as your current portfolio. So, Melissa, let's visualize the, well, before we move on to resume, let's visualize Tyrone's professional journey. So we have 5 key points here. Can you briefly walk us through this?
So Tyrone started, like many of us, he graduated high school and went, into a patient care aide role. Briefly, he never earned any certificates in the role, but it gave him some experience with dealing with individuals in like a nursing home. So he learned how to manage the patients, flip their beds, take care of their food and that information. And then from there, he went into a server job, and that is when he worked there for a few years, then was promoted to a lead. So he began training the other servers and, getting them into the system, making sure that they knew what was going on, answered their questions. And then another few years went by and they became an assistant manager, was promoted into assistant manager. And then his skills really bulked up. So he was in charge of the scheduling. He was in charge of the payroll. He had to problem solve every day with not only customer complaints, but maybe, managing the workers and answering their questions. And so wearing several hats with that role. And then he was using the largely patient care, waiter, and assistant manager skills, and he applied for the sterile processing technician role, where he is today, where he broke out of the server role and is now a medical professional.
Right. So what happens when we start this type of conversation with people is sometimes they are very shy. And they would say, well, I'm a waiter, and that's it. So there's kind of one point on this road. And then sometimes it takes a lot of effort and intentional conversation to really, really understand what the person has achieved. So as Melissa and I were talking and were preparing for this presentation, we did not immediately think about this in a 5-step journey. So we did not immediately remember that he was an assistant manager, that he was a lead waiter, that he had patient care. So what I'm saying is sit down, get someone who can help you really think about this and think about every single achievement in your professional journey. It matters. So sometimes you're thinking, oh, that's nothing. That's important. Every little project that you were involved in, every certificate that you might have earned, every skill that you may have practiced, put it on the map. Put it on the map. So sometimes what we have experienced in practice is it's unbelievable what we're starting from and what we're getting to at the end of this conversation. So trust me when I tell you that when Tyrone started this, he did not have 5 steps on this map. He only had one, like, oh, I've been a waiter. That's it, nothing special. So very important. I'm sure that when you think hard, you will find some context, some details to your story. Now,
and one thing
go on.
we talked about, I forgot to mention, was he earned his ServSafe certificate, which is about sterilizing the surfaces in the kitchen. And that was something that he used to help him in his interview for the sterile processing technician role. And that was a direct skill.
And that's important. And let me pause here for a second. So as a person who deals with food, you have the skills of making it safe, making it clean, making it sterile. And this is a transferable skill, which means that you can use it in other industries, in other jobs. And that's exactly what happened. So in a way, whatever this person learned in his waiter job, waiter position, was actually an important building block for his next career move. So I just want you to see the amazing job that Pipelines and Pathways have done for Tyrone, because this is how his resume looked like. The number one was just to remember everything that he had to his portfolio. And number two was really putting it nicely in a way that anybody can read and understand. Melissa, is there anything that you want us to pay attention to here?
I would say the first thing about a resume would be his professional summary. So it's the first thing that you're reading. And Tyrone has it written here that it's very intentional that he is a motivated assistant manager looking to utilize his customer service, office, and management skills to assist his community in the hospital setting. So he's being very intentional, saying, this is my goal. Right now, you might see that I have server experience, but my goal is to work in the hospital setting. And it's because I have customer service and management skills that the reason you should take a look at me. And I would also like to point out the skills section of the resume where it's bulleted and really easy to read for a recruiter, the top skills that he has: staff management, operations management, customer relationship and service, Microsoft Office, dietary aid experience, which, you know, he had forgotten about until, you know, we remembered, hey, you had patient experience and patient care experience as a dietary aid. And again, patient aid also on there. So if a recruiter at the hospital's glancing at this, they're seeing his motivation and then they're seeing his top skills immediately. And they get a really good idea of who Tyrone is and what he's looking for in a job. And then
can I just interrupt for a second? I really loved the summary, and it does not say that I am a waiter. It doesn't really say that. And you know, starting right from this summary, this just the 2 lines, right? Kind of, you know, 10 words, 15 words describing him. He expanded his current job. He's not saying I'm a waiter, which would immediately limit his perspectives. He's saying I'm a motivated assistant manager, which means that kind of sends a signal out there. I could do much more than I'm doing right now. Beautiful. And can you just say a few words about work history? It's so nicely laid out here.
So the work history is broken down into 2 columns there. So it's really easy to see for the recruiter, which is important on any resume. His most current experience as the assistant manager, where it is, and then bulleted points talking about how he, like we mentioned before, the transferable skills being the key things that we're pointing out here, that he's problem solving, that he's utilizing customer service, that he's multitasking, he's in a busy environment, he's training staff. And then the next one being his lead server trainer, again, expanding on the training skills, the multitasking, you know, the detail orientedness that you have to have in a restaurant setting that can be transferable. And then the second to last one, or the very final one, is his residential aid, patient care aid experience that he almost didn't even remember he had done. And he was talking about the patient experience and how, you know, he was placing linens, making their food, interacting with the patients. And then finally education, which is his high school diploma, and his certification in ServSafe. And I do believe we also mentioned that he had to clean several things in the patient care aid and in his server experience and assistant manager. You have to clean in any job. So we made sure to put those in there.
Yeah, what I love about this is how easy it is to read, how it's focused, very, very on the spot, kind of, you know, it's practical, it's true. Another thing that I'm looking at is that every single bullet point starts with a verb: resolved, handled, motivated, managed. So it really describes what the person had done, which is absolutely wonderful. So can I just ask you a question, Melissa? This is a very high quality resume, and I'm just thinking that not everybody can do it by themselves. Is that something you're helping with?
So yes, we made this resume for him at Pipelines and Pathways. He had a different resume before. He had like the Indeed template resume, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. I've had one in the past. And we reformatted it to make it easier to read and to highlight those specific transferable skills. So yes,
Thank
we
you.
provided that
Thank you.
service.
Thank you for doing this. It really looks great. So that's wonderful. That's a wonderful example. But is it the only example to represent skills and strategy? And what is it that, how else can you approach, in addition to that, how can you approach your portfolio? So when Melissa and I, when we sat down together, and we've spent quite some time talking about Tyrone, thank you, Tyrone, for being a great inspiration. We were thinking about his skills, and this ties nicely back to the question that someone asked, how I can understand, acknowledge, formulate my skills. So let's have a very good look at his example. So we know he was a waiter. And when you think about waiter job, some people will say, well, that's not much. You know what? It's an amazing skill set, because someone who works as a waiter always adapts, constantly is adapting to environment. That person is providing customer care, which is fantastic. So you hear customer's voice, you understand their needs, and you are catering to their needs. And obviously you're multitasking, and this is what Melissa said. There's so much going on in the kitchen, and clients want their service fast. So you know how to do this. And do you have anything to add here, Melissa?
There's so much that waiters do and servers do. These are just the top three that we kind of came together to highlight. But there's so much. There's more and more and more we could add, definitely.
Yeah. And another very important point here is that I would imagine that if we talked to someone who's a waiter, he would say, you know what, I just bring people their dishes. You know what, you're doing much more than that. So just look at those three big boxes here. All of them are transferable, which means that skills like that could be used elsewhere, not just necessarily in a restaurant. So again, find someone skilled, like amazing people in Pathways. And I just keep messing up with this.
Pipelines and Pathways.
Pipelines and Pathways. Yeah, sorry about that. And just ask someone to help you formulate your skills in a transferable language. So that's applicable not just to your immediate role, not just to the situation where you are right now. So what we know about Tyrone is, in addition to just being a waiter, which is getting stuff done in his restaurant, he was actually a manager as well, which means that he was putting together schedules, he was managing timesheets for people, he was training people, and this is what Melissa already said. Just think about him. I think my world has been expanding when we have been discussing his story, because my initial understanding of a waiter position seriously expanded when we laid out his skills like that. So being a waiter, being in a management position, but then another very important conversation is about his personality. Remember the summary at the top of the resume. He's a motivated manager. So let's talk about motivation. He's passionate, he's dedicated, he has his integrity. Remember, he's a young father, he is a very good waiter, he always takes things seriously, and he always takes charge. He has attention to detail, which is incredibly important, and he's a hard worker. Now, I want to hire this person right here, right now. Okay, now that you put it this way, it becomes really interesting. And then additional skills, and that could take some digging, because the person may not necessarily remember that they have it. He can make reports, because that's what he did in his job. He was very good at keeping safety protocols. So safe food, safe patients, kind of, same energy here. And patient care. Remember, he did it briefly when he graduated his high school, but he does have the skill set. So it becomes a big puzzle. Every single piece of this puzzle needs work to formulate it, to remember about this, because this has to be true. You cannot just make things up. But when you remember and when you formulate them nicely and when you put it all together, it becomes an asset and becomes huge. Now, so that's skill map. We call it skill map, which is wonderful. And another great thing to think about is your achievements. And again, some people are very shy, very modest, and they would say, oh, you know what? I don't have many achievements. Melissa, can you go back to this story? Did Tyron have any achievements?
Oh, yes.
Worth mentioning here.
Yes, he had many achievements. So something that he did is that when he was a waiter, he did take the Serve Safe course, which is intensive, and learned how to prepare food safely and sanitize the area safely for consumption. He then, the fact that he was promoted into manager role or even a trainer. So first you start off as a waiter, then you get lead waiter and then become assistant manager. All of that are achievements to celebrate. Anytime you are recognized for your work is an achievement. So anytime someone has said, good job, you did great on this project, even though it may not be a promotion, that is still an achievement that you can write on your portfolio. And then anytime you transition careers, so that means that you are taking those transferable skills, that you have the ability to do that. Not everyone is able to do that easily. It is a difficult thing to do. It shows that you're flexible. It shows that you're adaptable. So that would be an achievement in itself. And think about your personal life. Think about the things that you do in your personal life. You know, managing a family is difficult, and you have to balance the duties that you have at home with work, and you have to make sure that any decision you're making at home is the right decision. So that is a skill as well. So all of these are achievements that you can reflect on your portfolio, and you can get help from Pipelines and Pathways to do that.
I will not be surprised if Tyrone sends this recording to his mom, his wife, and his neighbors. And I would encourage him to do that. But now that you're listening to this, you could be thinking, oh, it's just a star guy. He's so incredible. What does this have to do with me? That's a regular person, just like you and me. And it's just when you lay it out, when you really think this through, when you formulate it, it becomes an asset. It becomes a portfolio. So our job here is to motivate you to do this, to do the same thing with your portfolio. It will take some time. It will take some effort, because you really need to sit down, remember, formulate. But I just have this wish for you. I wish you have an amazing portfolio. So start building it now. Start discussing it with people. Go to Pipelines and Pathways people and ask for help. And well, the truth is you can do this. So that's the message for you. So remember, we said that portfolio is about formulating right here, right now, as is what you already have, but it's also about thinking forward. So Melissa and I will walk you through this. And this is where it gets a little bit technical, but I'm hoping you will see the point. So the best thing that can happen to you if you become strategic about your development. So not only will you remember what it is that you have already done in the past, you will take your skill map, however big or small it is, and you will think strategically going forward, what is it that I can develop? So Melissa, can you tell us what he had done?
So with his transitioning into a new role as a sterile processing technician, we need to think about skills that he needs to develop in order to maintain his ability as a sterile processing technician. So what is something that he's never done before? You know, well, he's never worked directly with surgeons before. What's something else he's never done before? He's never done medical cleaning. That's a very specific kind of cleaning. You know, he had the base understanding with his ServSafe experience, but he's never actually been in a surgical office or, you know, hospital and cleaned medical instruments before. So that is something that he can now add, that he's developing. So he can speak to it now that he's starting this role. On day one, you can start speaking about, this is something that you're learning. As well as taking direction from the surgeons. This is a different kind of, you know, person that you're working with. It isn't a, you know, waiter situation anymore where you're helping waiters deliver their food and instruct the kitchen how to do things. This is surgeons who need things right now, need them cleaned right now. And so that's a skill as well that he is developing. We added patient confidentiality in here too, because although he had his previous experience as a patient care aide, he wasn't really in the hospital. And so this, because it was in a senior care home, so we added HIPAA skills, which is something that he can now add to his portfolio. Like, I am trained now in HIPAA confidentiality, where I do not share patient information with anybody. This is a very important thing to have on your resume if you're in the hospital. And then managing challenging situations. So it's, again, different in the hospital. So he's adding that kind of context to his experience now. Like, challenging situations are in a lot of jobs, but this is something very specific at the hospital. You know, dealing with emotional individuals, perhaps, you know, helping the patients with very specific questions, and understanding what to do. Like, well, I can't answer that question, but let me get your doctor for you who can answer those questions for you. And then his management experience. So this is something he does have. So this is something developing, but he's already got a little bit more experience than he had before. Again, it would be more about how he can take his base management experience. And when I say base, I just mean, like, you know, something that is very basic, you know, understanding of management skills. And people management specifically, but applying that to the processes and procedures and policies of the hospital. So he's going to be getting a lot of information about, you know, how does the hospital like this? How does the medical center specifically want you to understand this information, and then share that and teach other people the same policies, procedures, and information that everyone needs. And so if his goal is to be promoted one day into a different manager position, you know, and step into a management role after sterile processing technician, that he needs to develop that specific management skill. And so, because it is about, you know, the future as well. Like, what do I have right now? And then if I'm going to jump into a new career, what things do I need to expand on?
Beautiful. And I just want you to think about this. It's easy to become overwhelmed because you're starting a new career, you're vulnerable. You may be thinking, oh my God, I don't know half the things I'm supposed to know. Remember that beautiful visual with circles? That's what's supposed to happen. That's what's supposed to happen. That's what's supposed to, that's what you're supposed to experience. That's okay. So please do not get nervous. Please do not get frightened about this. Just get help, put together a list and start practicing your skills. So describe honestly your level as it is today. Think in terms of where you need to be, because the skills we are describing right here are really essential. So you cannot work in a hospital without this. So this is something you will have to do. And the problem is that it could be overwhelming. So it really looks like a big elephant. And you can see the big elephant right on your screen, which means that it's too long, it's too difficult. Well, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. And there's an amazing phrase, proverb, that you can eat the elephant one bit at a time. I'm not saying that you should start eating elephants anytime soon. But what I'm saying is that whatever the problem is, you can do it. If you start and if you go with your small steps, you can certainly manage that. And just one last time, let's touch on this. What was the elephant in Tyrone's case, Melissa?
He's probably going to have to get certified in sterile processing, which is, I think, a 6-month requirement after you attend this entry-level job. It doesn't require it right away, but he's going to need to get certified in it. And I think that he could also go into some management classes and get certified in that as well. And so those are two daunting things by themselves that he has to get done if he wants to get, further in his career.
Yeah. So the message we're sending here, two messages really. Number one is you are not alone. So I have to sing this. so that everybody will remember this. You're not alone. You have amazing support. You have your managers, you have your pipelines and pathways, you have people around you who really want you to succeed. And then go play. I mean, unless you start, you will never know whether or not you succeeded or not. At least you have to give it a try. Now, up to this point, we have been trying to empower and uplift you, and we're still trying to do this. But I just want to acknowledge that sometimes it's really difficult. It's good when you're having one of those up days, but sometimes you're having a down day, and you're thinking, well, I don't know. I don't know whether I have it in me. I don't know whether they will be good tasks for me. What if I learn, but there will be no opportunity to apply my skills? What if I learn, but they will not raise my salary and I will just do it for nothing? What if? And I just want you to know that every one of us, wherever we are facing the same anxiety, we're facing the same hardship and challenges. And believe me, I worked with different people across the globe. So those questions come from people at the beginning of a career journey. Those people come from vice presidents of big companies. And the people who succeed are those who are able to find the strength, find the guts to pull themselves together and make a step forward. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. Find someone who you can trust, who you can talk this through with, and that's just one part of the journey. That's okay. That's what happens to people. And another thing that I keep hearing from people is it's too late for me. And sometimes I've experienced reverse problem, which is, oh, I still have plenty of time. I am like in my 20s, so I'll just hang around. So I have motto, which is right now is perfect. Your future starts today. But it's really up to you to decide whether or not you have what it takes to start moving today. If you ask me, I would say start now, but it's your life, it's your journey. So see what's right for you. Any questions so far that we could address before we move forward?
Not so far. I think we're good. Anybody have any questions?
I'm still waiting for the 1,000 questions, please.
I know.
I know you have them. So we are moving on to an amazing subject of personal brand. And I was actually speaking in Charlottesville a couple of days ago. There was a big HR human resource conference, and I spoke about career. And they were HR managers, HR leaders in the room. And I asked them if they needed a personal brand. And they were reflecting on this. I would say that everybody wants to be recognized for what they do. Everybody wants to have connections, but then not everybody necessarily has this good network. And I'm here to tell you that you need to manage this intentionally. Who you are making friends with, who you're spending time with. Is this fulfilling for you? Is it giving you new opportunities, or is it just a toxic network, I'm sorry to say, that you somehow created for yourself, which is just dragging you down? So be intentional about your network, be intentional about the people you surround yourself with. And I just sound like grandma. I'm sure that somebody's grandma told you this, and she was right. You know what? She was right. So when you think about personal brand, this word came to us from marketing. So if you think about a shampoo, I'm sure you've used shampoo at least once in your life, right? So you're using one all the time. So if you go to a store and you want to buy a shampoo, you will look across the aisle and you will see that there are so many shampoos on the shelf, and you will pick the one which you're probably familiar with, or somehow it kind of, appeals to you. And if the price is right, you will buy it and you will wash your hair with this. Now, this is what happens when consumers buy products, and companies are extremely, extremely intentional about making sure that you make the choice that they want you to make. So there's a big marketing theory behind that. They want you to buy their product. Now, you are, in a way, a shampoo. I'm sorry to say that. And I will repeat, you are, and you will walk away from this. You know what Anastasia told me? I am a shampoo. So welcome to this world. But jokes aside, you are a product. You are a set of skills, you are a set of capabilities, and you want someone to buy this at a good price. Just be honest with me, that's what's going on. Which means that you need to be intentional about marketing yourself. You need to be intentional about what is it that people think about you, how you compare to other people who are seeking the same jobs. And when you think about this moment when someone chooses a shampoo, there will be facts and emotions involved. So when you pick a shampoo, you do not necessarily know the chemical formula behind it. You do not necessarily understand the manufacturing process involved. You like it or not. You've seen it before or you haven't. So the same thing happens when people choose you for a project, for a position, for a promotion. There will be some facts involved, not all of the facts. And the big question is, what do people know about you and what have you done to promote yourself? And there will be emotions involved. Absolutely. I mean, people want to work with good people. People want to trust other people because, the stakes are high. You need to complete projects. It's going to be challenging. There's so much hardship involved. Everybody wants to work with someone nice, trustworthy, reliable. Now, question is, what have you done to create this brand for yourself? Do people know that you are this amazing person who will be great in this new project? Now, there's so much we can talk about in this domain. I'm going to say 3 important things. Number 1, you need to formulate who you are. And we already touched on this. It's not I am a waiter in Tyrone's case. I am a reliable manager. What was the wording used? I'm a motivated manager. So be intentional. What you have seen so far in Tyrone's experience, there was so much attention put into formulation of his brand. Who are you? Remember, at the top of his resume, there were only 2 brief lines. And in those brief lines, he created an image of himself, and it's immediately appealing. You want to read on because there's someone who's energetic, who's capable, who's ambitious in the right way. So you've got to do this for yourself. You've got to formulate who you are beyond your current role, beyond your current situation. Number 2, assess your network. Who are the people you deal with? Who are the people you talk to the most? And then you need to increase your visibility. So you need to make sure that people know you, people recognize you, people want to talk to you. Now, let's go back to our example and let's just go briefly through this. So brand sounds like a very big word, Melissa. What did Tyrone did around this?
So we mentioned in the portfolio section that he did kind of redo his resume. He reformulated it.
Rebranded himself.
We rebranded it together with a Pipelines and Pathways rep, and asked him what is his statement of purpose. When we met with him, we didn't know what his statement of purpose was. So we asked him, what is your statement of purpose, which is the same sentence that Anastasia mentioned about being a motivated manager, and using that as an anchor for the rest of the resume. the next thing that we needed to do, that we recommended to him, was, okay, what is your LinkedIn profile? What is your, who do you know already that you can talk to? We talked about his dad. So his dad, as a mentor, already had connections in the community, and his dad can help him get connected to even more people. Well, how do you do that? You can use social media to do that. You can use LinkedIn, but you need to make those initial conversations. Even texting somebody, introducing yourself, going to events are really important. He went to the Pipeline's grand opening. He met a rep there and got started, introduced himself and what he was interested in. And then from there, you know, he got in touch with the right people. He knew who to talk to. He was speaking with other professionals. One big thing that he can do, and now that he's in the healthcare the healthcare field, is that his managers are now a part of his professional network. His coworkers are now a part of his professional network, and so he can build his brand more with his new career as a sterile processing technician.
Oh my goodness. So online brand, personal connection, reaching out to people, spreading the word, building network. There's so much to be done. But the fun thing is that even if Tyrone was doing this because he needed a job and he wanted to make a transition, the portfolio of people, connections that he was accumulating will be serving him well beyond this current transition. So you are getting in touch with good people. You are putting yourself out there. People know you, people remember you. And in Tyrone's case, haven't we been talking about him for the next hour and a half? I mean, he's a famous guy now, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens. That's what happens. So let's play a little game, and I will have to go from full screen to just a small screen mode. What we will do right now is we will assess his network. So we prepared this little game, and I want you to see what this is all about, and I want you to find time to play this for yourself a little later. So when Tyrone was at this point, he had a few people that he was in touch with. That would be mentor, that would be UVA advisor, that would be hiring professional. That's the person making decision at UVA medical facility. That would be his new manager. That would be his co-workers. So we're not talking about his neighbor, his mom, his kid. I mean, those all are amazing people, but for the purposes of this conversation, we're talking about people who may have influence on the future job. And we really want to assess the strength of this relationship. So this kind of sounds funny, but let's get started. So Melissa, you for a minute will be my Tyrone. You will be kind of impersonating him. And I will be asking you about all of those people. And I will ask you to think how strong your relationship is with those people. And I mean, if your neighbor is your best friend, but that person has no influence on the future job, then we might place him in the box numbered 3. So great person, great relationship, no influence on your future job. Is that clear? And
Yes.
obviously, we want very important people on this map, and we want them kind of in the 8-9 area. I'm hoping this is clear for everyone. So let's just get started and let's see what it looks like. So mentor, which happened to be his father, what do you think his relationship was with his mentor?
Really high.
Really high. So that would be somewhere in this domain.
But he doesn't have influence, so
no. So I mean, his father is an amazing person, very loving, fantastic, but he did not really have any influence on the future job. So he could contribute ideas, he could support him, but he could not do anything to get him hired. UVA advisor, how strong was relationship?
It would be, I think, middle. It's not as high as the mentor, but not as much influence, so probably on the 5.
So those people certainly have a lot of awareness about the local market, about how you need to put together your resume, but they do not get you hired. which this person does. That's your hiring manager. So at the beginning of this, what was the relationship of Tyrone with hiring manager?
Probably low. They just met.
Like non-existent. And how influential was this person?
Very high.
Now, red flag, you need to build relationship here, right? So medical manager, that would be his boss. If he gets hired, that would be the person he works for. What was his relationship?
I'd say probably middle, maybe low.
Middle. So he met this person before?
I
Probably
don't
low to
really know,
middle,
probably
right?
low, yeah.
Yeah, low. And how was that a big influence on the future job?
Big,
Or
yeah,
is it
big
good?
influence.
I would say that even higher than hiring professional, because ultimately that's the person who's hiring you. Hiring professional is just kind of administering this, and medical manager is the guy you're working for. And co-workers,
That's gonna be low on relationship, and then maybe, yeah, low middle for influence on the future
right?
job.
So what's important about this is that you are breaking the silo effect, because otherwise you're just happy in the circle that you have created for yourself. Good for you. But then think strategically, think in terms of your future success. And you will see that there are some people you better make contact with. There are some people out there in this community. Sorry, I'm trying to go back to full screen. This is a wake-up call for many people, wherever you are in your professional journey. When you really think in terms of how much time you're spending with certain people, you may see that if you want to be strategic, if you want to think forward, there are some people you need to make contact with. So I went to full screen. I will not go back. We probably need to pinpoint some focus areas here. And what we have done was we selected UVA advisor and manager. So in Tyron's case, he really needed to work with those people. He needed to create trust, establish connection, build a relationship. So couple of words, very, very fast. Melissa, how do you do that? If you're a stranger, if you just walked in, you've never met this UVA advisor person, you've never met this manager person, how do you build a relationship?
We definitely want to do a meeting, and Holly has placed our contact information into the chat box, and we will share more of that at the end of the slide as well. But a meeting to introduce yourself to a UVA advisor at Pipelines and Pathways to kind of explore what your goals are. What are your goals? What is your end long-term goal and your short-term goal? Learn about us and ask us your questions for guidance. How do you get from point A to point B, and share with your resume with us and listen to our feedback, ask for assistance with those things. We also do interviewing assistance as well. So maybe you need to strengthen your interviewing skills. All of that is in that meeting with us to assess your skills and to assess your level. So that's our process.
Beautiful. So again, the message for you is there are some amazing people out there who want you to succeed. Your job is to make the first step, make a connection, be open, really, really have this on your agenda. You are here not just to create your career, advance your career, but also to create relationship, build a relationship with those people. So that's really important. And some people forget about this. Now, question for you, and I'm just inviting to reflect on your own journey. Are you driving your personal brand? You can formulate who you are very briefly. You have a good resume, or at least you've started it. You have a good profile on LinkedIn. You could answer yes to all of those questions. Congratulations. If not, if that's not the case, I'm inviting you to start acting today. Now, there are so many questions that people ask me because I've been doing this for a long time. Oh my God, this is bragging. Or I don't know whether it has to be strictly professional or whether I could just include something personal. I don't know whether it kind of sounds pushy that I kind of talked about myself. What if I'm humble? What if I'm shy? And you know what? It's scary. You're telling us that we need to build those relationships, but it's really scary. And again, I just want you to know that this is not unique. Everybody feels this way. And we don't have the time to kind of have a very deep conversation about this, but I'm here to tell you that this is a two-way street. It's always about human interaction. It's about people trusting each other, working together. If you're authentic, if wherever you are in your journey, tell your story, find a way to connect with people, find a way to be helpful, find a way to be curious about other people, because you know what? They are struggling probably just as well as you do. Find your voice and use this opportunity to make something beautiful out of your life. Now, another interesting visual here, and some people created this beautiful visualization, if that's the right way to say this. You are in the middle, surrounded by all those amazing people. Just think about the people living out there in the world. And you have built an immediate circles of connections. That could be your neighbors, that could be your family, that could be the people you live with at this point in time. And well, that's fine. But there are so many other amazing people with different perspectives, different life experiences, different opportunities for you. And let me tell you that this guy out there, I hope you can see it, way beyond your reach right now. This person could be having the next life-changing opportunity for you. So unless you reach out, unless you open up, you will never know. You will be just limited by whatever is going on in your immediate world. Reach out. It's only humans. It's only human beings out there, and they are people just like you, and they might be interested in what you have to say, and they could be useful to you. So with this in mind, we are almost there. We are almost completing. You have to do something about this. So many amazing ideas, so many amazing opportunities. They are yours if you put your best foot forward. And Melissa, I know we are approaching closure here, but I know you have more stories than just Tyrone. We used him as an example to really take a deep dive into how do you do this step by step. But then you have other people you served as a project, as Pipelines and Pathways. Can you give us a few more examples, please?
Yes, of course. So yeah, not everyone is like Tyrone, where they had tons of experience in customer service and had assistant manager experience. So that was something that was very unique to him that helped him in his career. Other people might resonate with someone like Diane, who was a cashier at Walgreens for years after she graduated high school. She's pretty young. She always wanted to work at the UVA's medical center as well as an access associate. So she knew she wanted to get into there. She went online. She researched what it would take to get into that role. So she actually got a course in medical terminology and earned her certification in that. And then she found out about Pipelines and Pathways through PVCC's online job distribution email chain, and attended one of the events and met, a Pipelines and Pathways representative. She brought her resume with her. She wore, a blazer and made sure that she looked very professional. And then when she connected with us, we worked on making sure that she was ready to apply to an access associate job. And a lot of that had to do with redoing her resume. She took notes as we discussed in our meetings, and we did several interviewing coaching sessions and practicing to make sure that she had the skills to go into that role. So that is her success story. She is now an access associate. But
I love how you said that she wore a blazer, because that's a part of your brand as well. So you're presenting yourself on the next level. So another person, Ahmed.
So we have Ahmed here. So So he's actually also a student. So he was attending PVCC part-time in engineering, but he needed a full-time job at the same time because he needed to support, his bills and everything else that he had going on in his life. So he knew that it would be wise for him to work while going to school so he could have work experience. And so when he graduated, he had enough experience to be looked at for jobs. So he contacted, he's new to the country, so he hadn't really been a part of the United States for very long. He was new to Charlottesville. And so he looked online at the job center, City of Charlottesville's job center, and connected with a job coach there. And the job coach asked him what he wanted to do. And he said, well, I'd like to work at UVA. And so he referred, the job coach referred Ahmed to Pipelines and Pathways Services. So during the meeting, Ahmed talked about how, he was very flexible on nights and weekends. And he knew that that would probably be something that UVA might be looking for, especially in some entry-level positions. And we looked at the supply specialist job together, talked about it, looked at his requirements. It didn't really require anything, didn't have any, experience required. And so since he was new to the country, he was a student, he didn't have a lot. So we helped him apply. He showed up early to the interview. And the hiring manager was so impressed with him and his ability to show up early and, be very friendly that they hired him on the spot. And so now he works as a full-time supply specialist at UVA.
Again, I just want to highlight what you keep saying. First impression matters, and it's a part of your brand. So if you want to be seen as a professional, as someone reliable, dress up, show on time, be positive, be inquisitive, build connections. I mean, some people think that this is something secondary. It's not. You are putting yourself out there, you're presenting who you are, and you are making connections with people. Wonderful. So one more example, please. This amazing person, Liv. What happened to her?
All right, so Liv. So Liv is a Charlottesville native. She has been living here all her life. She's a single mom, and she has been, working for her entire time out of high school as a housekeeper. So that has been her entire experience. She hasn't been able to really go into another career. So she spoke to a career coach at a different employment agency about her struggles. She was really stuck in her career. She needed something better, and she needed something higher paying so she could support her family. So the employment agency referred Liv to Pipelines and Pathways because UVA had higher paying roles and has higher paying roles than her current job that she had as a housekeeper. And Liv had an interesting work experience. She had like 20 years of housekeeping experience. So she was very experienced, but she's just been doing the same thing linearly this whole time. And if that was her goal, that was great, but she needed something better. So we looked at options that were a step up from a housekeeper role into a quality and assurance inspector position, where she would go into housing and inspect the role to inspect the apartments there to make sure that they were up to code. And that gave her promotion into a role that was higher paying and more responsibility. And so there she works now, and it's better for her. It's shorter hours, or not shorter hours, it's earlier hours. So it's like, enough time for her to come home to pick up her kids from school and then take them home for the rest of the day after she's done with her work. So it worked out really well for her.
Well, when you go through those stories like that, a minute per person, it sounds like amazing success stories. So kind of, it was linear. So the person just made a decision, then click, new job. I'm just certain there was a lot of anxiety involved, a lot of emotions, a lot of ups and downs, but still the person did something, moved on, and now we are proudly discussing their stories. So our message to you is start acting now. You can do it, seek help, and see what you can do based on your skills and your aspirations and your purpose. So to close this off, Melissa, if someone is out there listening to us and thinking, yeah, I'm gonna do this, what's the next step?
So we definitely encourage you all to reach out to Pipelines and Pathways if you need some career advice, career assistance, resume assistance, portfolio, interviewing. We do it all. And we encourage you to meet with one of us one-on-one so we can figure out what your goals are and what your current skills are and what step you want to take and what's your long-term goal, and then what are the 5 things that we can do to get you there. And you know, there's a lot that can be done. If you have a LinkedIn profile, that's something you can do right now to, you know, review. Or if you don't have one, you can go and make one right now. You know, connecting to other people in your network, including Pipelines and Pathways. You know, we have connections here, but we're also on LinkedIn. Holly shared our link in the profile here. So connect with us, you know, make a profile, connect with us, start building your professional brand. There's so many things you can do today that are actions that are small, but will in the long term be really fruitful for your career goals. And so that is, we look forward to hearing from you all.
Oh my God, that sounds fantastic. So another chance to ask questions. So for those people out there who had 1,000 questions, we're still waiting to hear from you. I'm just wondering if you have any questions left, and we have another kind of couple of minutes before we complete.
And feel free to either speak up off your mic or you can type your question in the chat, either one.
It looks like we covered all the 1,000 questions in our presentation, which is absolutely fantastic. So if you feel that you want to ask a question, we are very, very happy to hear from you. I just want to say that this presentation would not have been possible without the amazing people from Pipelines and Pathways. You guys are wonderful. And really, it's a little bit of a structure, but essentially, this is your hard work. This is your stories. This is your success. Well done. And thank you for doing this. And from our side, we're a small team of 2 people. It's myself and Stanislav, and we are here to make your life better. So over to you, Melissa, and please, would you wrap this up?
Yes, thank you so much, Anastasia. Thank you all for attending, and we will be sure to send you all recordings of this presentation today. Thank you, Anastasia, for joining us in this presentation. I learned so much while I was working with you doing this. It was a lot of fun for anybody on any level. Does not matter. This is very good information to have. So thank you all. And I think that we'll go ahead and if anybody has any other questions, just shoot us an email and we'll be sure to get you.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Have a great
everybody.
day. Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you. That was excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Rico.
Hey, Jonathan. Mohammed, are you there? Oh, good. All
I was
right.
just about to remove him and then he popped
Yeah.
off. Well, I was going to have her stay.
Can you stop recording?
Oh, yeah, sorry.